what video does is basically like it's human. It's human in a very different way, and we kind of, I mean, we live our lives on the internet in this weird way where we're all tracked. We're all that there's going to be a chatbot that's going to be asking as if I'm a real person, whatever. Sarah is asking me a question, but it's actually a bot and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's more bandwidth in video. There's more bandwidth in terms of what you can do, how you can make a real human connection, and what you can kind of get away with.
Joining me this week is Steffen Christensen. He is the CFO and co-founder of a video marketing platform called TwentyThree, who are based in Copenhagen in Denmark. TwentyThree recently released a report called The State of Video in 2022, where it looks at how businesses are using video. And some of the findings are quite surprising. And that is what we're going to go through in today's episode. We're going to look at how businesses are using video and give you some tangible examples and tips that you can use. Welcome to the Simon Says Video Podcast with your host, me, Simon Banks, where we talk about all things video and how this powerful medium can help you grow your business. We focus on how you can get a return on any video content you create. We talk about strategy, production, content, distribution, marketing, how you can get visible, gain new leads, and get new clients. And now, on with the show. Stefan, thanks for joining me. Can you just tell me a little bit more about you and TwentyThree?
Absolutely. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me. I'm Stefan. I'm a co-founder of TwentyThree, and TwentyThree is basically a video online video platform for managing all parts of video. So we usually say that our mission is to bring the tooling to people that do video across different spheres, getting real with video somehow. So we have a few different kind of entry points into TwentyThree. A lot of that is working with online video, uploading, managing, controlling, branding, analyzing that. But essentially to have a really solid way for companies, for organizations to work with video in their marketing, in their communication, and beyond. And then over the span of time, we've kind of taken a dive into other parts of video, including live video, webinar production, and even personal video recording.
Yeah, so I've been using the platform for a couple of years now. You've been established for a while. So when you first, it was over a decade now, I think, when you first developed the platform, what were you seeing the need for when you first basically came up with this idea?
So we started out in the field of what I would call kind of visual sharing. We had this general thesis on the back of kind of the the internet coming along and busting in the .com era. That there would be a better way, first probably for real people to communicate with each other, to kind of show their real lives and what they're doing, but also that there would be a way of that would make a lot of sense for companies to work with visual sharing in a way that wasn't about advertising, that wasn't about media, but rather in order to do real storytelling around video. So our kind of like our initial ideas and what we started working with companies on in the late aughts was basically that: how do we allow people or companies to tell their stories in video? And back then, I would say that the tooling around that was really slim. So in a lot of cases, the first challenge was just to kind of get reasonable video online in a good way. But then over time, it actually became kind of like the I guess the puzzle to be solving. I'm very much kind of a puzzle-based person, and the puzzle to be solving was a lot about like, how do you actually succeed with video? Not how do you take a video and get it online, but rather once you started building a video strategy as a company, how do you use that and better that in terms of actually telling stories across the board? So not just to a single customer on the front page of your website, but to partners and to employees and kind of everywhere along the way. And like behind that, tooling is needed, and that in a lot of ways the kind of the story of TwentyThree is that we started out building pretty good tooling for getting a video online on embed code, and then over time we followed our customers into doing more and more of this stuff, right? To get more engaging players, more engaging video formats, better data, better kind of branding tooling, but also better collaboration tooling, because that's also in a lot of ways the story of video for the last, maybe not 10 years, but certainly for the last 2, 3, maybe 5 years, is that video has gone from being something that the video guy does, the videographer, or like we used to joke about like every company will have a printer guy and a video guy. There's the guy who knows how to fix paper jams, and there's the guy who knows how to run the camera. But that has softened up over time, right? That it's softened up to a point where video is actually, it's not necessarily all encompassing, but there are a lot of different touch points where video matters. And we see our mission as being kind of building the tooling for all the people in a company that wants to do video webinars, just that's quick video recording for a lead that shows something very specific that will only be played once, kind of all those different things, and have the tooling in place to do that.
I know 23, it's not just a video hosting platform, it offers so much more. And I often have a discussion with clients like, oh, why can't I just use YouTube? Okay, so how would you, I'm sure you get the same conversations as well, how would you answer that question? Why, YouTube is free, right? 23 is obviously a paid for platform. There's loads of other paid for platforms as well. But just for the benefit of our listeners, why should you consider a platform like 23 rather than just using something like YouTube?
So really that question has come, it has come up a lot, and it's a normal kind of way of looking at the world, right? You start out doing simple things with simple tooling. You probably start out doing simple things with free tooling. So that might be it'll be YouTube, it'll probably be Vimeo, or kind of like you get your feet wet somehow. Where we and other people in the field kind of shine is more when you start having a lot of content, a lot of different, not necessarily complex needs, but probably needs in terms of collaboration, in terms of control, in terms of tooling, in terms of analytics. So we see ourselves kind of as the upgrade point in a lot of cases from a YouTube. I'll say that question probably comes out less and less because YouTube has gone very kind of heavily in on creators, and it's probably the right thing for them. But as companies, you're kind of finding your way into cases where you don't just have 8 videos that you need a way of playing back. You have 800 videos and different departments doing different things at different times that might be published differently, and you want to have workflows around that. And that's where paid tooling naturally comes in. As with anything in the world, once you kind of mature from having simple needs to having concrete needs, something like 23 will come in really well. And we pride ourselves kind of having something to offer in kind of all of these different categories, whether it's about like being really good about analytics, being really good about integrating into your marketing tech stack, or even into offering different features around, for example, doing kind of webinars or live streaming or personal video recording and so on. So, it's a natural question, but it's also a very broad one because a lot of it comes down to how you're setting out to succeed in video.
Well, I think it does really come down to actually, do you have a strategy in place for your content?
You're exactly right.
What I really want to be geeking out on is actually, using video for your business. So obviously, you've had the platform for a while. What trends are you actually seeing with video and how it's being used within businesses?
So one of them I already kind of highlighted, or at least alluded to in the introduction to kind of what I do and what we do. That is about generally maturing the organizations, and it's a natural thing, right? I think some of that can be seen through the prism of the pandemic, but even before that, we saw a maturization in terms of how do you look at video. Some of that is down to how many people produce videos in the organization, which kinds of videos are being produced, kind of what are the formats, what are the cases where you're using video. You can also look at it through the prism of kind of the production quality of videos. So there's certainly this idea that videos is kind of moving up the priority list, right? It might be something that, you wanted to do as a part of the campaign 10 years ago, but at this point, it's going to be part of every kind of campaign conversation in the marketing team, for example. So there's certainly the maturization where video over the span of that much time has evolved. But the other side of that, that's very much the input side. I think for us, the maturization on the output side is a much more kind of interesting way of looking at it. So what we've seen is that the tooling around how to basically succeed on a video strategy, or how to kind of emphasize that the tooling that allows you to succeed with the strategy, a lot of that comes down to, well, how is our data being tied into all of our other systems? So that's something that we've seen, I want to say, since 2016, 17, certainly, that that tying video into, well, your web analytics, into your CRM system, into your marketing automation, and actually knowing that video is a meaningful touch point. Video does, I mean, we can always talk about like what video does differently. I mean, you'll engage for longer with a video. You'll probably have a slightly more meaningful interaction with the person who's on video. There's a visual thing that really works in the video-based storytelling, and you want to take some of that signal and bring into the rest of how you are measuring, I guess, your success or your strategy follow through. I mean, I don't think it necessarily came as a surprise, but it came on a wave. It came on a wave where, from kind of 1 month to another, we saw that question being asked again and again, and that maturization has come basically kind of like, you evaluate your tools based on, is it able to fit into all the other things that I'm doing? So that's kind of one trend, that there's just more of it, right? And then obviously the pandemic is another way of looking at it, where, I mean, you can look at it in terms of volume. Yes, there's more video being produced, there are more kinds of videos being produced, but what really I think propelled us forward, both as a platform but also the organizations that use our product, is that there is a lot more willingness to be on video. That matters a lot for the video production, kind of for the strategies and the storytelling you can do. It matters a tremendous amount on doing webinars and doing live streaming, that the people that might not have been comfortable kind of sitting and looking into the camera before, I don't know whether they were forced to, they might have been, but certainly a lot more people got kind of video native, and that has mattered a lot in terms of adoption as well.
No, it's really interesting to hear that, you know, businesses and organizations are saying, right, we need to do more video. And people are going, yeah, I know from my experience in production, a lot of people don't want to be in front of the camera, but, you know, as you're right, either been forced to, maybe not. I mean, I think there is a whole generation coming up, you know, which are now probably more middle managers, and, you know, we are more what we call digital native, right? So they're more comfortable in front
I think
of the camera.
one of my favorite kind of stories that I've been told is this is about a Scandinavian pharma company, and they basically, I mean, they found a kind of manager in kind of somewhere along the organization who was more perfect on video. He was the guy who could like deliver everything. He could tell the story. He could be like on par first time around, one take, just do really kind of stellar internal communication on video. And they ended up building a lot of their internal communication around video. At a point, this is probably like 8 years back, something like that, where nobody else kind of had taken that journey yet. And I mean, he ended up becoming the CEO of the company, which is nice for him, because he kind of rode the wave of being the guy who was just like really good at video communication internally. And it always, like, back when I was told that story first, like that's maybe fine for you guys because you found the unicorn. But what I've kind of learned along the way is that it's not really a unicorn. It's more about having it's more about literacy somehow, that we've all come up in this, like, I mean, you and I are old enough to kind of perceive video as being broadcasting. It's Dancing with the Stars, right? It's whatever the telecast from the Olympics, whatever, right? It's like, that's how we've seen video. That is the production level we've expected when you came out. And there's certainly like a part of that, I mean, you and I wouldn't be able to go and perform on a camera. And I think like this like, to become CEO of this pharma company, he was maybe kind of the bridge between the old world of broadcast and the new world, where communication becomes more about, I guess, the storytelling of stuff, and not having not having quality be the be all and end all of video communication, not having a broadcast format where every program needed to be 28 minutes, but where the idea of bringing real people in front of the camera brings a whole different vibe, and honestly a vibe that I really, really like. And I mean, that's not that different from being kind of in the podcasting sphere or anything else. I think it's a natural kind of evolution that we've all, just as we all learn how to write an email over time, hopefully we've all gotten to a point where we can sit in front of a camera and tell a compelling story. I mean, there will be people on the other side that ultimately become the judge of that, Simon. But I think that's a massive change that we've seen in the past just like 2 or 3 years because of the pandemic, because, well, people were forced to.
I agree. I think especially in the pandemic, people would spend a lot of time on either Zoom or Teams, and actually that's a form of video, right? I know from 20Three's point of view, I think your webinar usage went through the roof, and I think are people probably a little bit more. I was going to say the word comfortable being in front of the camera, but maybe not. But maybe they're getting more used to it.
I think it comes down to the definition of being in front of camera, because being in front of camera can be, we're in the studio, there's a big red light that blinks on air, and there are whatever 2 camera people, and you're kind of like, you need to look into the right camera at the right time. Nobody's comfortable doing that if that's not your day job. Whereas like webinars is such a great example of that, where that it basically that's not the success criteria, being able to succeed in a video studio. The actual thing is being able to look good and smile, look in the camera, and be part of a real conversation. And to kind of move away from the point of people being on camera, I think it changes the structure of how you build successful video, because a lot of it comes more down to curation, into hosting, into kind of planning out what are the kinds of videos that you're doing, because suddenly it becomes very easy to just sit in front of a camera. We can all click record, we can all go live, we can all do stuff. So that's table stakes suddenly, where before, like the CEO of the pharma company, right, he was the only guy who could do it, so he was the guy chosen, right? So that he was the unicorn. I think at this point we are all in a position where we can do this, but it then challenges the video strategy to be about like, how do you best utilize that energy?
My phrase is always consistent video content. So,
yes.
So I think it's probably changed a lot. I used to, when I first started producing corporate videos, it was probably 20 years ago, the business would do one video, and they might do one video every couple of years. Now, I would say, and I guess probably from all your clients, you could probably say most people are doing at least a video a week, or not even more. And I think it's 2 things. One is consistency. One, it is defining a plan or a strategy about what your messaging is, and there's multiple levels you can do that. And the other thing, which is interesting, I think production levels and quality maybe are not so important these days. It's really about getting it done, getting your message out there in a video form, rather than worrying about maybe going into a studio, bringing in an outside agency. And I'm interested to see from the data or the clients that you have at 23, what kind of content are they creating? Is it all user generated? Do they have in-house teams, or maybe it's a mixture of everything?
Like, hopefully it's a mixture of everything. And then before I hit on your direct question, I think you're exactly right that this is like, there is a change in the production quality. But I think the real challenge becomes about like, how do you find the mix? How do you actually become literate enough in the video space to be able to kind of pick what is the quality that I need for this? The big product launch that lives forever, and where all the collateral goes out across the entire company, probably you want to be investing video quality in that. The single video that you record for a single customer just to show how to use this feature in the product, probably you don't want to invest in the video quality of that. So the real trick is actually to say, what are the cases where we just like, we turn on the webcam, we get this done? What are the cases where you want to invite a lot of people to have a conversation on a webinar? And what are the cases where you want to like go into that studio, have all those different videographers standing next to it, and having post-production be done well? You have a teleprompter so people are on point for the script. And that is really tricky. I will say that if we look at the 20 platform overall, we kind of, by natural nature of the fact that we have 1,000 customers that all do video in various corners of the world, it's a bit of everything. When we look at our data, we can see that over time that video has become this kind of everyday activity for more and more of the companies that are using our platform. It's like 5%-ish that are producing videos and uploading videos daily. But in fact, almost half of our customers are doing videos basically every 3 or 4 weeks. And that requires that you have a production apparatus in place, that you don't just kind of wing it every time. It's very hard to, you can wing something once or twice. It's very hard to be winging it again and again, right? one way of measuring that mix, and one thing that we've been focusing a lot, we do these annual reports, kind of state of videos, where we look at data from our customers, but also data more widely based on survey data from people that are professional video makers and video marketeers. And one way we've kind of been measuring this mix is in the different durations of videos that are being recorded. You and I, again, like, we're the old guys somehow, Simon, that we're told in the mid-aughts that a video is never allowed to be more than 90 seconds, because on the internet, people will never watch a video. That is blatantly wrong, and it's led to this idea that a lot of videos have kind of been overproduced on the backside of it, right? If you're promoting stuff on YouTube, probably yes. If you have a YouTube ad, you probably don't want it to be, you at least want to make your point within the first 5 seconds. On the other hand, if you have people visiting your website, you want to, you have enough time to be telling the story. So we've also seen that over kind of the last 5-6 years, that the mix of different kind of durations, types of videos being produced has changed a lot, to a point where, well, basically, I would say, like, in the range of 10% of videos, 10-15% of videos that are produced and managed on our platform is more than a quarter of an hour long. And that's kind of an important one, because it highlights that people are not necessarily just going by one KPI for measuring whether a video has been successful. If you look at the marketing funnel, there are plenty of ways you can look at it. Is it important that people saw that you had a video on your website? Is it important that people start playback? Is it important that they finish playback? That's where the fallacy comes from. Looking at a video as being, the video can only be 90 seconds, is because you decided that people need to finish your video, otherwise it didn't succeed. But we're seeing kind of a softening, or you can call it a slightly more nuanced way of looking at the KPIs for videos when you start defining the formats. And one way of looking at that is saying, are we optimizing towards plays? Are we optimizing towards finishes? Are we optimizing towards engagement? Engagement is one that I really like, because it has a different kind of vibe along the way. How long are people actually watching your content? And then slowly but surely, people are starting to optimize towards lead generation. And that's a kind of a new approach to looking at video that's kind of been driven a lot from, basically from performance marketing, and looking at, well, it doesn't really matter if people watch this video. What matters is I know who they are, what their interests are, and ultimately whether I can contact them again. So that's just like slow move into kind of emphasizing different parts of a video strategy, and that's nowhere near at its kind of endpoint yet. We can still see that if we look at kind of the engagement metrics, I would say, like, the short videos, the 90-second ones, they account for like half the videos being produced, but only for 12% of the engagement overall, right? So that's this big gap where like half of the videos are only kind of delivering a tenth of the engagement by video consumers. And on the other side of that, the very long videos, like the 15-minute plus videos, they account for roughly 15% of videos produced, but actually account for half of the engagement. So there's still this kind of idea, and it's not to say that we should be producing long videos for the sake of it, but it's more about starting, exactly as you say, figure out what is your strategy, why are you doing video, and ultimately how do you measure whether it's successful. Is it, again, people click play, I'm fine? Did people actually watch it for a long time, get the messaging and so on, or do I just want to kind of convert them and get their email address? And that's, I want to say, the fun part of video is that it's been normalized, as I said before, back into the marketing stack, the communication stack, the web stack. That video is not this, well, the orphan child of the internet that works on a different level or on different criteria. We're starting to apply the same logical expectations for videos that we are for all kinds of other content, and that's a fun thing that's happened in our industry in the last few years.
Wow, that's amazing answers. So much in that answer. I just want to unpack a little bit there. Now, you referred to, you've actually produced a report called the State of Video 2022. We'll put a link in the show notes where actually the listeners here can actually download it. One of the things we'll talk about, there's a couple of points I want to pick up on. One is duration. Okay, now, When I read that report, I was a bit surprised actually to see that actually longer form content over 15 minutes was pretty high on the engagement list. I always say that the video needs to be as long as it needs to be, depending on your audience. Probably depends on the customer journey. I would have thought, if your audience doesn't know you and you're trying to get awareness, then probably shorter is probably better. I suspect maybe we can talk about that. Maybe the longer videos, if it's more for internal communications, maybe that they might be longer. I think when we talked about earlier, I thought maybe you were talking about webinars. Were they included in this report? And you said, no, they're not, because I just suddenly thought,
they're really not, right? Because that's a whole different part of the game. And yes, it will kind of drive that thing longer. I think one thing to kind of whatever keep in mind for this stuff is like, if your video is short, people will watch most of it. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. If a video is shorter than 2 minutes, average, people will watch like 80% of it. So it's more like, if you want people to complete your videos, make them short. That's perfectly fine. But people have this expectation that kind of attention will drop linearly with the duration of the video. And that's just not the case. And this is something that we actually did this testing both for videos that are internal and external. And generally, it's the same pattern, that for videos that are 15 minutes and longer, people will actually watch 50% of that on average. So that naturally drives up the engagement. It's pretty obvious, right? Because if there's a 15-minute video and people watch half of it, I mean, that will be 7.5 minutes at least by my math. So the whole deal is that the average engagement kind of like it overperforms your expectations if you just have this like 90-second model in mind. And even videos that are 45 minutes and longer have an average engagement percentage or average watch percentage of 40%. Some of that is obviously tied to what videos do you produce in different parts of your funnel, because you're exactly right. If you don't know the customer, or rather, if I don't know a brand, I go to their webpage and they say, hey, please watch this 45-minute video on what we do. Like, I'm going to be, I'm probably not going to do that. So obviously there's some expectation setting. And I think that's maybe a different way of looking at it. Like the qualitative way of looking at that is saying that video is being used in different parts of the funnel as we go along, right? Where people started out thinking about video as advertising, video on YouTube, video as 90 seconds, all of that is kind of in the same bucket. But over time, the idea of not only doing stuff for awareness, but also doing stuff like way deep funnel for existing customers on loyalty, on training partners, on doing complex onboarding flows as people start using your products or whatever, showing how to change the oil of your new car, all those kind of things that are like, I mean, they work really well on video because they're visual, right? You can see them. You can actually have experts that get up and this is how you open the hood of your new car. This is an introduction to how the engine works. This is how you should be filling in the oil, all that kind of stuff. Like pretty naturally, if I bought a new car, I'm pretty invested, and I'm hearing this from a guy who knows what he or she is doing, right? So that's a pretty natural thing, and I think that's where we've also evolved because that video, if you spend $250,000 on it, I mean, it will just never exist, right? It's natural. Like, why would you ever spend? Whereas if you have a good way of producing, like if you find the mechanic who can kind of look into the camera, just be good, all that kind of stuff, you can do 10 quick videos on every car type pretty quickly. And the production quality, you can kind of vary to make that work for you. And it builds actual engagement for a smaller segment of customers, yes, but it doesn't make it any less valuable. In fact, it probably makes it more valuable. So I think it's not just about saying, well, you can make long videos, you probably can, but on the other hand, if you do it for the right reasons with the right audience in mind and have, like, again, back to your point, if you have the right strategy, like you can there's a lot more elasticity in people's expectations of that kind of what they will be doing with the content you put out there.
No, I totally agree. I think it really does depend on your audience, and I think I think one of the top tips here is actually experiment with some longer form content as well, particularly onboarding. I think especially, as your client or customer goes through the journey of purchasing. I think, a lot of people like to do the research now, and I often say to my clients, you should really be doing, more product videos, product review videos. There's something you can film on one of your smartphones. It's quite interesting. Talking about vehicles, I have a Honda, and I go to a Honda dealer, and when they do my what we call service, or we call it here in the UK an MOT, the actual mechanic actually gets his iPhone out and walks me through my car, talking through all the points. The brakes are good, the tires are good, and it's a 5-minute video. It's a personalized video, and I just thought, wow, that's they could just easily just send me an email saying your car's ready and it's all fine, but the fact they do a walkthrough just makes it much more personal for me, and it's quite impressive actually. And I just think these are the simple things. So again, the video content doesn't need to be highly produced. We have the tools. The tools generally come in the best camera we have is the one with you, which is going to be a smartphone. Just needs probably a little bit of training, with your team and staff, how to properly use them. But I just think it makes the customer experience so much better.
What video does is basically like it's human. It's human in a very different way, and we kind of, we live our lives on the internet in this weird way where we're all tracked. We're all that there's going to be a chatbot that's going to be asking as if I'm a real person, whatever. Sarah is asking me a question, but it's actually a bot and all that kind of stuff. And video is a lot more. There's more bandwidth in video. There's more bandwidth in terms of what you can do, how you can make a real human connection, and what you can kind of get away with. And it's down to production qualities, because you wouldn't be able to do that 5-minute video for every customer if you had a big studio. Whole different ball game, right?
Let's talk about personalized video, because it's the tools, the idea's been around for years, right? But I find, if you send a personal video, so I'll be saying, let's say I'm sending you a proposal for some video content, Stefan, I could send my proposal. This is what I do with my clients, is then I'll record a video, and 23 have actually a separate app for this, where you go, hi Stefan, here's my report, here's my proposal. I'm just going to walk you through some of the key points. Okay, and then I do some screen share, and I'll actually go through this, and maybe I can share a couple of videos I've done as well. And it's amazing how the feedback I get is like, wow. And the reason the feedback I'm getting is wow is because no one's doing it, right? It's very
Exactly.
I actually find it quicker for me to record a video than actually to write an email, right? And it's so effective. And I think a lot of businesses and organizations are missing a little trick here, actually, especially the sales team, all right? I should be using, because I know personal video is so more effective, and especially if you've got a tool like 23 do have called personal, it makes it easy, right? So it's just easy, just press record, webcam, there's your presentation, walk through, email it to them basically. What kind of results are you seeing from people using personal video?
I love your example also because it kind of highlights this idea. The personal video thing has been used, maybe even overused in the kind of cold outreach space for a long time, right? It's kind of you've all seen the video of like somebody holding up a whiteboard and saying, "Hi, Simon," and it's because it's effective. It's a bit of a gimmick, but it's also a way of introducing yourself. That's a very different thing, because there's again more bandwidth in being able to show something and show I'm a real person. It's harder to ignore than something that is an email. It's also kind of signaling that stuff wasn't automated. A lot of those things, right? It kind of signals that I'm actually here. I'm actually writing this email. All those kind of things, because we've also gotten used to a lot of kind of bots emailing us, whatever. I think where we've been, probably not where we've seen the most usage, but where we've been the most kind of heartened by the usage of our personal product, is when people kind of break out of the box of sales. When people break out of this, that is not just for the kind of the sales team to do cold introductions, but exactly as you say, it's more about this kind of show don't tell vibe, where personal video, in my mind, is kind of breaking up what you and I would usually do for doing a video, right? It's like we would do an outline. This is what goes in the video. We might even be doing a script. We know that's pre-production, post-production. Everything's planned, and along the way in the planning, the story is made. Personal video does the other thing. Personal video is the story, and then it happens to be on video. at least when it's done well, because that's your example. Your example of doing kind of an introduction of a quote or a proposal to a customer. You kind of have the story in your head, and what the tool needs to do is not get in your way while you're telling the story. And that's actually very different from kind of videos and like certainly marketing videos that have been produced for the last 20 years, because they fit into a box. And I think like personal video when done well actually breaks that down, where the tool is so minuscule. I shouldn't say that. We make a tool, it's excellent, all that kind of stuff. Go check it out. But it shouldn't be standing in your way of you telling the story, showing, don't telling. Whatever, you want to show something on screen, you want to show something on camera, and you probably end up being slightly more verbose in how you talk about it, all those things. But ultimately, you kind of get the humanness and the kind of reality of who you are through those ones. And I think where something that we've focused on, and where this is really still in the becoming, is how do you collaborate around personal videos? Like, how do you have different people record different parts and still have this idea where the tool is not driving the conversation or driving the storytelling, but rather where the storytelling drives how the video emerges. And that's a fun product to build, and something that I think we've gotten really far on, but where that is really kind of the key to personal videos. Again, it's more about how do you get video native enough to have comfort in sitting in front of a camera, showing stuff, showing a quote, being real, and then have a tool that is kind of just enough there to know that there's a video. You can do post-production, you already post-editing, you can remove the stuff you don't like, you can re-record a part, you can assign other people, but it should really be about the experience of looking into the camera and doing stuff.
No, I think it's an amazing tool. I do believe that this is totally underutilized, actually, in all forms of your customer journey as well. It's great for an onboarding tool as well, and even afterwards, doing reviews and things like that. Because I believe people buy from people, right? And if they can see and hear you, see the whites of your eyes and all that, they're more likely to actually engage with you. I just want to go back to one really important aspect, which you touched on earlier, is basically the matrix. Okay, the data that you can actually get from video. I mean, I know that's why one of the reasons why you've actually built the platform, 23.net, is because of the rich data that you can get. Now, I believe that a lot of businesses, they make a video, they put it on their website, put it on YouTube or Facebook, whatever it might be, and they never really go back to look at actually how the video is performed. And I just sometimes feel they also don't look at the right matrix as well, actually. So they look at views. And I'm just curious, because I know this is an area you guys are really strong in terms of, what kind of data can you get from video now, and what should businesses actually be looking at? Okay, you talked about a few before, but what do you think are the important ones, and what should we be looking for when we're sort of measuring the performance of a video?
The short answer to kind of what kinds of data can you get, you can probably get all of it. And that's the problem. The problem is, and I think the whole idea of just showing charts of how many times was a video player loaded, how many people play, when are people dropping off. I mean, it's obviously part of kind of knowing how video is being used. But knowing the prism that you look at that data through is an important one. And we spoke a bit about YouTube before. It's not really about YouTube, but for a long time, people were looking at the view count as being kind of the successful, or the metric that told you about success. And for me, this probably came in when we started kind of looking at marketing automation, CRM systems, and a lot of other things in kind of how video is being approached. A part of what we do in 23 is we allow people to be converting, like adding your email address, signing up for a product trial or a newsletter or whatever as a part of watching a video. So there's a version of video where it's just like random Joe on the internet is watching your video. That can be really powerful if you're good about like utilizing that. But that can also be, well, Simon is watching my video. He's been watching 10 minutes of this video about how to produce webinars from his iPhone or something like that. And for a business like ours, the value of those two different data points is, well, it's two different worlds entirely, right? Random dudes watching a video, I mean, it's interesting. We probably want to be doing more content around it. It makes a lot of sense in the awareness part of our kind of marketing business. But as we go along in the kind of interest, desire, whatever you want to do in the in traditional kind of marketing models, and even when it's existing customers, there's a lot more signal to be getting in terms of what is like how your videos are succeeding. So one way of looking at this is basically saying, hey, pick one metric. This goes for webinars, it goes for videos, it goes pretty much for everything that you do. Kind of pick one metric that is the one that you're going to be looking at for this particular video. Is this a video that's about getting people to click play? Then absolutely be measuring whether people had, 1,200 plays on YouTube or on TwentyThree or on whatever products. If it's more about actually, if you show a product and your ultimate goal with having people watch that video is for them to be interested in that product, add a conversion point alongside that video that allows you to gauge whether people are actually interested. And that can be like downloading more information. It can be going to a different page to kind of lead them along in the customer journey, or it can be kind of in video conversion forms. And the fun thing I would say is that this is also a very underutilized tool where, vanishingly small amounts of videos actually have this, even if it's kind of easy to set up. So less than 1% of all videos have this kind of conversion point that's built into them, and videos overperform other conversion points massively. So a video that has a conversion form before the video starts playing, in the 2022 numbers, actually 31% of everyone that clicks play will also be converting to a kind of known user or to an identified lead. If you compare that number to whatever pop-up forms on a blog, all those kind of things you see when you enter a web page, usually those convert at like 1 to 2% of people will type in their information. So for now, it might be that this is like a number that's kind of hardening up over time, but at this very moment, I would say that a conversion point in a video overperforms a conversion point outside of a video something like 20 to 25x, which is kind of staggering actually. Also, it might be because it's underutilized, so there's a huge opportunity or a huge edge in the market right now, particularly for marketing teams to start utilizing kind of video in that last part of the funnel, not just for awareness in the top funnel.
No, that's amazing, because I think most people, I think you're talking about, it's like a collector form or something. So for example, and I'm sure there's other forms, but the one that you normally see is, put your name and email in to watch this video, right? Yeah. And that's quite incredible, because it's probably think it's a gateway. And I think a lot of people might, go, I don't want to put a barrier for someone watching my video. But interesting stats, that's incredible to say that actually they do actually work. And I know with your platform, you can put it at the beginning, you can probably play the first 20 seconds and then pop it in there.
Something like there's a lot of variability around that. And I'll say obviously kind of the gating converts better than the non-gated ones. So the gates, that's the one I spoke about before, kind of the thing that goes before the video. It might be skippable, but it's kind of before the video, converts at 31%. Whereas if you place the conversion point during the video, it's closer to 13%. Again, like 13% is still 10x of what you would normally expect from other forms. So I mean, it is something where the conversion rate will drop as you kind of soften the barrier to keeping watching.
Well, I think that there's two things I take away from here. One is to actually test this and actually put conversion forms into some of your video content. And then you actually know who's actually signing up and watching it, because that's obviously that data is really important. And then what it is actually to test it at different points as well. And I'm sure you're seeing lots of different things happening with your clients. And I think, is any top tip you can give us in terms of what is best practice, or what are you seeing? What mistakes can organizations avoid when it comes to actually utilizing their video assets?
I would say that one part of it is actually looking at kind of how your videos are working in different distribution channels. We've spoken a bit about YouTube, but obviously there's a huge kind of space of where videos work. And obviously what YouTube and Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on can do, and actually do really, really well, is they can put your videos in front of people. So for advertising and for kind of top funnel interest for short videos, I mean, it's part of your mix. What I find interesting is that if you get a video playing on your website, and this is not just about whether it plays a TwentyThree player or something else, the average time that people spend watching a video doubles, right? So it basically means that you're getting to a point where the fact that you're on your website gives people a lot more kind of fidelity and a much more expectation of who you are as a sender, and also gives you more elasticity in terms of how much of your message you can get across. So finding that mix between own channels and kind of channels on loan or rented land is an important one, and it's probably a part of video that's slowly finding its footing after having kind of been tested out for a lot of years. So that's something that's a bandwagon to get on there in terms of actually making sure that videos produced for your website actually make use of the fact that people are there and have enough patience to kind of bear with you. We spoke about a few of the kind of opportunities in the space, right? In terms of like producing longer videos to get engagement, using in-video forms to get conversions. So if you're optimizing not just plays, but rather engagement or conversions, I mean, there's still a lot of way to go. That's the cool thing about being in the video space. There's nobody who has the truth yet. We're still finding the truth out. But ultimately, I mean, and we've spoken about this either directly or indirectly for about an hour now. It's all about finding the mix of video, and that's down to how do you produce the videos, who do you put in front of the video, how do you distribute it, and how do you measure it. But finding a production cadence that is repeatable. You said whatever constant video before, or consistent video, and I think consistent video is probably, I mean, it's the hardest thing. We can all do something really well for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, but doing something consistently and doing it well requires determination. And the stupid thing is, like, it's not that it's hard, it's more about reminding ourselves to build stuff that is repeatable. And I think, I mean, I could spout off a lot of numbers about things, and I have. Trust me, I have. But ultimately, the people that are getting the good numbers versus the people that are doing the bad numbers are the ones that have built consistency into their video pipeline or into their content production pipeline.
Just to wrap this up, you're absolutely right. And I think it's, the key to success with video, I think, is consistency. And consistency across all your areas of business, from awareness right through from basically looking after your clients, and right through it also to measure it as well in terms of how it's performing, and basically is to mix it up a bit as well. There's no one video that's going to fit everything, and you should be creating lots of different types of content depending on your audience and your clients, and across different platforms. And we didn't talk about everything, from website to social media. And I think one of the good thing about the platform TwentyThree is that you can have all your video assets in one place, and then you can distribute them across all your channels as well, which is quite good. From measuring point of view, you can see how they perform. I mean, Stefan, thank you. We could talk for hours.
We have, Simon. Just the different venues, we have spoken for hours before, and we probably will again. But thanks for having me nevertheless.
I will put a link in the description where you can access TwentyThree's State of Video report. Now, thanks for watching. You may also realize that this is actually a podcast. You can also listen on your favorite app. The YouTube and audio versions are slightly different. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And here are a couple of other episodes you may be interested in watching as well.